Hello. Using our NextCounsel application, I'm going to show you very quickly how you create a new matter or client on the system. So the first thing you do is you put in your username and password and log in. As soon as you're logged into the system, there are two ways you can create a new matter and client. The first way is using the client or matter part of the dashboard that allows you to select matter information, click on matter, and create a new matter. So the first thing is a client is automatically populated, but you can change this client if this is not the client you wish to create a new matter for. So I can change it to CNN, for instance. Then you enter a contact person. So say the contact person is not Mr. Farid Zakari, but instead it's Mr. John. So you input Mr. John. Then you put in the name of the matter. So say CNN is suing BBC. So this could be CNN versus BBC. Then you put in a start date. You're creating a matter today. So let's use, for instance, the 31st of July. Or you can select from the calendar. So let's use the 31st of July. Perfect. Then you put in an end date. It's possible you do not have an end date. If you have one, you can put this in. If you do not, you can leave it open. Then provide a description of what the matter is all about. So it could be CNN is charging BBC with a violation of some sort. That's left for you to decide based on your interactions with the client. Then you select the practice area. A lot of practice areas are already put into the system, so it's possible that this transaction is a company secretarial transaction. It's also possible that it's contract, it's dispute resolution, so let's use this. Then if you have an engagement letter, you could upload that accordingly. If you do not, you could leave it. Then you select the primary finder. Who is the person in the organization who is the primary finder for this matter? It could be Mr. Adams Johnson. Are there other finders? If there are, select them. If there aren't, you could leave that open. Then you provide the access type. Now, do you want everyone in the firm to have access to this matter or not? If yes, it could be public. If no, then it becomes private, and only the team members who we would select as we go on would have access to this transaction. Then we have the supervising partner. So you could select one of the partners in the firm. It could also be Mr. Kendi or Mishore. Then are there alternate partners who are going to be supervising this transaction? If there are, please select them. If there aren't, please leave that open. Then you have the matter manager. Now, who is going to be in charge of, or who is the matter manager who has been assigned firm-wide, or who is the person who is going to have an overview of all transactions or all things related to this transaction? So you could select the matter manager as Mr. Adams Johnson. Do we have team members? Of course we do. So now we select Andrew as a team member. We have Busayo Motosha as a team member. We have Mr. Baribo Jukuto as a team member. We have Lekon Bagalala as a team member. We have Mr. Man Wadada as a team member, and so on and so forth. And you submit form. And just like that, the new matter has been created. Now it's going to take you to the payment information form where you have to provide details of payment, because of course we want to receive funds from this bank. So the first thing is you select the currency. The system is a multi-currency system, so are you going to be billing the client in Naira or your local currency? Are you going to be billing this client in dollars? Is it going to be in pounds? Is it going to be in euros? Anyone that applies, you select. So let's use dollars. What's the payment type? The system allows for 7 different payment types. The first is the lump sum, which means it's one amount and that's all. Then the second is the lump sum, which is payable in installments upon certain milestones. So as you attain a particular milestone, then payments would be received from the client. Then we have lump sum with hourly rates to be triggered when an agreed duration or scope is exceeded. We have hourly rates payable in installments upon certain milestones, hourly rates with a fee cap and a retainer. So whichever the payment type is, you select, and then you move on to the rate. Are we charging this client with our standard rate or with a blended special rate? And then is there going to be a refresher fee or bonus? So once that is done, you can just go ahead and update. So your matter information has been updated accordingly. Then we have team. You can change team members to and from a transaction. So any team members, you have personnel who are on the matter showing here. And then if there are other team members, if it was a public transaction, if there are other members of the firm, you could select them here. However, as it is, it's a private transaction, so you have the team members fixed. You can change this to public in order to have access to changing the team members and update. Then we have court. All court updates that be provided for this transaction will show up here. Any notes that people have put in, employees who are working on this transaction and filled in, will show up here. We have links. As you go on, it's possible that you meet new parties or new people who have something or the other to do with this transaction. You could add them as links. These are mostly external parties or external links. Then we have milestones. So perhaps there are any milestones you need to set to determine when payment will be received from a client. You can set them on milestones. Any task you want to assign or that has been assigned to team members will be found here. Then timesheet, all time entries that have been made for this transaction will populate here. All expenses incurred will show up here. Any income that you've received or invoices that have been generated for the client will show up on that income. Then any documents attached to this client will show up here. And on the left-hand side of the page, we have basically the financial information or financial overview of this client on this matter. We have bills generated for this matter, finalized bills for this matter, unfinalized, paid, unpaid, overdue, expenses incurred working on this matter, total hour time that has been put in for this matter, the dollar value of that time, and the local currency value, in this case, Naira value of that time. Then the second way to create a new client or matter is we go to new client or new matter. So you can select new client, put in the company or client name. So it could be, we want to use, let's say, BBC as a client. Then is this a corporate client or an individual client? In this case, it's a corporate organization. What industry does it belong to? There are a couple of industries that have been put into the system, but perhaps it doesn't belong there. You could just go ahead and type. So we have broadcasters, but in this case, I want to use broadcasting. Registration date. Do we have the registration date of the company? If we do, we put that in. If we don't, we leave it blank. Account creation date is 31st of July because it automatically takes the date that you're creating this new form. The chart of account for this client, do you want it in your local currency, which in this case is Naira? Do you want it in dollars, pounds, or euro? So let's use dollars. Then who introduced this client to the firm? Was it introduced by Mr. Adams Johnson, for instance? Who's going to be the relationship manager of this client? So let's use Mr. Bright Appiah. The contact address for this client, we have it as, say for instance, let's do number one Church Street, mainland Nigeria, for instance. Then you have, do you want to add any extra notes? You can if you want to. You may leave that blank if you do not want to. You provide the company or contact name. Who is the contact person? Now, this is where the contact person information is. So who is the contact person for this client? It could be another company. It could be an individual. So let's use Mr. Charles. Then what's the location of the contact person? It could be the same location applies. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. Do you have the mobile number? You can put that in. If you do not, you can leave it blank. Do you have the phone number? Do you have fax, email of this person? If you do not have that information, as long as the box is not asterisked, you can leave it blank. Then underneath, you just go ahead and submit form if you provided your extra notes. So we are going to be working with this client or as their corporate secretaries, for instance. Perfect. So you just go ahead and submit form. So once that's done, the client details have been successfully added. There's a broader form that has extra details. So it shows you overview on the right hand side, a client code which is automatically generated, the name of the client, is this a corporate or individual client, what's the industry, the date that the account was created, and the address of that client. You can also edit information and update or submit accordingly. That is how you create a new matter or client of the system. We have the new matter form, which on the quick links just takes you back to the form that I showed us earlier. And once that's done, you've successfully created a new matter or client on the system, and you can go ahead and log out or do other things on the system as you please. Thank you.